good morning and welcome to you on International Women's Day. Hello, good morning, and I'm Sarah Austin, and welcome to the Really Helpful Club. Now, this is our In Conversation series where we talk to different business owners, entrepreneurs, shine the spotlight on them and hear what inspired them, what they've done with their business, what they've learnt along the way. Now, we've talked to some amazing, interesting people in the last few weeks since we started this series. And this morning on International Women's Day, it seems absolutely perfect to talk to Vicky Booth, who is CEO of Inspiring Girls. Now, Vicky's going to be joining us any second, but there she is. And I was just about to steal your thunder and say what Inspiring Girls was. So, Vicky, give us a wave and say good morning. Say hello. Can you hear me, Vicky?
Yes, I can, Sarah. Yes, am I clear?
Brilliant. You're clear, and we can see you and we can hear you,
Great.
And we've got lots of people joining us already. So perfect. So first of all, welcome. And welcome on International Women's Day.
Thank you.
And Vicky, I never know if you should say Happy International Women's Day or what you should say. But anyway, welcome on International Women's Day. Very nice to have you on board. And I think just really, really, suitable and apt and very appropriate that we're talking to you in your role as CEO of Inspiring Girls. So thank you for taking your time out of your busy day to talk to us. And before I kick off and ask Vicky to tell us more about the charity and also about your journey, because it's a really interesting one, is for anyone that's watching, please do pop any questions into the comments box that we'll be able to ask Vicky as we go along. And do please pop your comments as well. It is really interesting to hear how people respond and what you have to say. So Vicky, first of all, welcome. Now, you joined Inspiring Girls, I think it was back in 2019. So I guess it's been a really interesting sort of beginning, with quite a lot of it spent obviously in lockdown. But tell us about your own journey and tell us, what inspired you to get involved with the charity.
Yeah, sure. Well, thank you, Sarah. And I think Happy International Women's Day is the thing to say today, this morning. It's great to be here with you and the Really Helpful Club this morning. Thank you very much for having me. So my journey, exactly as you say, I joined Inspiring Girls back in 2019. It has been quite a ride since then, not only in terms of what's been happening across the world, but also just in terms of the growth of the charity. We're now working across 23 countries. When I joined, we were working in 9, so it really has been quite the growth period. For me personally, I've always been passionate about gender equality. Of course, I didn't always call it gender equality, but I always had a sort of a burning passion about equality between boys and girls and men and women. And that was from a very early age. I remember around the age of about 8 or 9, about the age of my own daughter now, going into school and being absolutely outraged, all of a sudden just looking around, being absolutely outraged that the girls at that point weren't allowed to wear trousers like the boys. And I do remember getting quite incensed about this and marching around to various teachers demanding to know why this should be the case, and actually ended up they couldn't give me a good answer, so managed to sort of change the policy on school uniform in school. So that was a sort of early memory. But I've worked, I've done a lot of traveling. I did a lot of traveling when I was younger, in my 20s, and that really opened up to me quite a world of sort of international, sort of an international vision, and opened my eyes to sort of some of the gender norms and stereotypes that exist in other parts of the world that I found both fascinating and at times quite saddening and depressing. Thought I was going to go into international work, and worked in an international charity when I first started my career, but then fell into politics. And spent the best part of a decade working in politics on various initiatives to encourage women and those from underrepresented groups to stand for election for Parliament and for local government. So that was a fantastic experience, very UK focused, and it's been brilliant to come to have the opportunity to come back into the sort of international charity world and bring that all of that experience of working in UK politics with me to this role.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, actually, very timely. We've just been joined by Inspiring Girls Brazil. So that just reinforces your point about and to you know, just how international, just how, you know, how far the reach has extended. Yeah. And I guess how many others watching this will remember similar stories about sort of school uniform and just ridiculous biases like that. You know, it feels like a you know, a bygone era, doesn't it? And so to tell us more about the charity, tell us about Inspiring Girls International and the inspiration behind it.
Yeah, sure. So Inspiring Girls was founded, we're coming up to our 5th anniversary of Inspiring Girls International, the international part of the charity. Inspiring Girls, the principle behind Inspiring Girls was actually established about 5 years prior to the international charity being formed through an initiative called Inspiring Women in the UK. And it's really born out of a bunch of quite shocking statistics about the impact of, even now, the impact of gender norms and stereotypes on girls between the ages of about 10 to 15. It's a really critical age, and any of us who know or have children around that age can I think this really resonates. Girls particularly face the statistics show a drop in confidence of about 30% after the age of 8, of almost a crisis of confidence in their own abilities and their own ambitions. And what happens at the same time is a real hardening of those stereotypes. So sort of decisions are made about jobs that are for boys and jobs that are for girls. You know, the things that girls are good at naturally and the things that boys are good at. You know, you see this particularly in things like STEM subject, science, technology, engineering, and maths, that kind of field, where a lot of, you know, I think it's almost 60% of girls think that those jobs are just for men. And does it, you know, it's very sort of, and obviously at that time they're making quite critical choices about their education, but also about future careers, which can really impact going forward for their entire futures. So that's the inspiration behind the idea, is that we know that actually bringing role models into the view of girls at that age can make a huge difference in that, in their outlook. So they're a really powerful and important way of sort of counteracting those stereotypes, actually showing girls that there are women working across a huge range of sectors and fields that are succeeding, that are doing this amazing work, that perhaps are not necessarily in their line of sight. If you don't know somebody, if there's not somebody in your family or in your near circle at that age, it's actually very difficult to look around you and see women. And we always say, I mean, we're not the only ones to say it, but you know, you can't be it if you can't see it. And that's something that we very much hold dear. So that's the inspiration behind the charity. It operated in the UK very successfully for 5 years and still is operational now under the banner of Inspiring the Future. And we now are international. That model has replicated across the world. As I said, we're now in 23 countries, including Brazil. And I'm sure there are several others from the various country teams on today. It's a very busy day for us in a sort of gender-focused charity world. So and we're growing all the time. So we've got new country teams opening in, I think just this week, we're looking at, you know, Jersey. We're opening in Jersey, and Russia is our next country team opening. So it's really exciting times. And I think the last year has really shown the passion of women to really do something, despite all of the negativity and despite all the sort of depressing context. I think we've had a huge amount of interest in the charity, which has been actually a very sort of, it's been very positive for us, actually.
It is really fascinating what you say, isn't it? You know, that at such an early age, that these sort of stereotypes get embedded, and that it's something as you know, we all know that we can pinpoint a moment, an individual that has inspired us to take a step in the road, as it were, and that I think that's why your charity is so important, because it is, you know, it's taking what maybe we do have within our own family or wider circles, but leveraging that on a worldwide basis, and being able to inspire people in everything and anything. And I think part of the the issue for people, you just don't know that career or that career path exists, and how do you get inspired to do something first of all, and then how do you pursue that path as well?
Yeah.
So I think the idea for the charity and the inspiration, the rationale for it is just phenomenal. And so we wish you well with the continued expansion into Jersey. And I mean Russia. It's obvious that these are really, really important territories that you're expanding into. Now you are the CEO. Incredibly important role, and it sounds like you've been incredibly busy since you landed back in January, so just over 2 years ago. And together with your founder Miriam Gonzalez, what's your vision now for the charity on if you were to look 3 to 5 years from now, what would you want to look back on and say, yeah, we did it, this is where we got to?
Yeah. Well, I mean, so it's a great question, and one that I think all charities are struggling with after the last year has just upended nearly every strategic plan I think anybody had written anywywhere.
It's not just charities, don't worry, you're not alone.
No,
but it's particularly important because again, and apologies for interrupting, but you because charities are funded for the most part on donations, then and it's been incredibly difficult for everybody. Suddenly the whole basis on which you can make those plans get completely thrown into jeopardy. It's really difficult.
Absolutely. And we're actually reasonably fortunate as a charity. We've got some really fantastic corporate partners who have supported us over a number of years and have continued throughout this very tumultuous period to be fantastic partners in every way, not only in terms of kind of financial support, but also just in terms of whether it's communications or legal advice or whatever it might be, but supporting kind, which, as you will know, incredibly valuable to any non-profit. So in terms of our sort of vision, I think that we're really looking, I mean, we are expanding all the time, as I mentioned. We've got a particular, we had our first African country join us at the end of 2019, Morocco. And we are now looking at, we've opened in Turkey as well. So there's a growing interest in Egypt, and there's other countries in the MENA region that are very interested. And I think that's a really, really interesting place for us to be working. With some very specific cultural norms that have to be addressed there. But we've also been we're really interested to expand into Africa. And I should probably point out at this stage, we always, the way in which the charity works is that we always work very much with chairs that are based within the countries we're working in. So wherever we work, there is a country chair who drives the campaign in that particular country. So we don't have we don't pick a country and say that's where we want to work. We are very much led by women on the ground coming to us and saying, look,
now, don't go away. We're talking to Vicky Booth, who is the CEO of Inspiring Girls. We lost her just now. and I think she's having a problem with her connection. So don't go away, because we're having a fascinating conversation with her, and I'm just sending her another invitation just to see if we can get her back on. So we've been hearing from Vicky Booth, who is the CEO of Inspiring Girls, and which is an amazing charity which is all about inspiring the next generation, and inspiring you with careers and just great role models. Here we are.
Hi.
Hello.
I'm so sorry. That was obviously a Wi-Fi blip on my part. I'm so sorry.
And on a day when presumably most of your sort of household has gone back to school and stopped draining your Wi-Fi. So, well, I will tell you, we lost you, and here are the joys of, you know, life working from home during a pandemic.
Yes.
You know, this is now the norm. Is we lost you at the point where you were talking about how you're led from the ground up, and yes, that, you know, led from chairs and looking basically for individuals, you know, women in those countries to step up and take it forward. So, and then we lost you. So I would suggest, so, you know, rewind and do that bit, because it's incredibly important, because part of today is, you know, let's get more people involved.
Absolutely, absolutely. So yes, just to go back on that, apologies again. So we are very much led by we have a country chair in each country we work in, who is responsible for really driving the campaign forward in their country. So we really believe that it is women on the ground in the country who really understand that we take the principle of the campaign, but of course, the campaign needs to be applied to the particular social and cultural context that they are working in. So it's that we find that's a really core principle for us. So whilst global expansion over the next 5 years is going to be an inevitable and very, very welcome part of the work we do, we want to reach as many girls as we can. And this is an issue, by the way, that just tracks across every country in the world. You know, every piece of research, you will see this kind of this need for role models for girls of this age group. So there's absolutely something that can be replicated across the world. So we will be expanding, but this is very much in the hands of the women that we work with in each country. So we'll be expanding, and I'd love to say we'd like to double the number of girls reached. We reached, despite all of the issues with school closures and, you know, pandemic issues last year, we still managed to reach 24,000 girls. Whether that's sort of online or in the early part of the year, in-person events or online events. So, I mean, we're certainly looking to double that in the coming years, and I suspect we'll overshoot that by some margin, which is very exciting.
Absolutely. Now, obviously, we've mentioned International Women's Day a few times already this morning. I expect we'll be mentioning quite a few more times during the course of this morning. But, you know, I think it's really shone the light on, you know, gender bias, stereotypes. It's been an incredibly tough year for everybody, and I think, you know, there's been a lot of narrative about the impact on women as well. So, and I think it ties in really well with the work that you're doing and your role models are doing at Inspiring Girls. But how do you see us achieving a greater sense of balance, a greater sense of equality as we start to come out of this pandemic? And, you know, is there a danger we slip backwards? You know, do we go back in time rather than pushing forward? And, you know, it's a big old topic, and it's, you know, it's gonna, I think, confound us for some time to come. But what are your thoughts?
I'd agree with you, Sarah. I think sadly there is a danger of slipping back. We've all seen the shocking statistics about how women have borne the brunt of the pandemic, whether that's in sort of loss of employment, and, you know, being in the lower paid jobs, often part-time jobs, and losing those jobs, or it's the burden of childcare and other caring responsibilities that have fallen quite squarely on the shoulders of women. So I think that there is, and I think the Choose to Challenge theme comes at a very good time, because I think it's on all of us to really challenge those, to challenge some of those assumptions, which I think the pandemic has shone quite a light on. Whether it's sort of in the domestic environment, you know, at home, with those of us who think that we've had, you know, a very equal kind of relationships, and actually realize, you know, God, really, you know, we really have to sort of address this. or whether that's on a kind of global, looking at it on a global scale. I mean, girls particularly, young people particularly, have also sort of are facing a very, very difficult time ahead.
Yeah.
Of course, this is the day that all of the children have returned to school in the UK, which is fine. We all hope that goes smoothly. But of course, there's millions. If you take a global view, the UN estimates there are millions of girls who may never return to school after this. Yeah. And that has a significant, sort of, it's almost unimaginable impact. Particularly in developing countries, for those incremental slow improvements in terms of gender equality in the workplace to just drop away completely and take many, many years to sort of come back from. So I think it's really important that we continue the work we do, because I think that what we've really held fast to over the past year is we may not be able to get into schools as we normally do. Yeah, but sure. We know that it's just as important to be getting out the positive messages that we try to put out all the time, the inspirational messages, those messages that say to young people, don't give up. There is a future. A lot of people have been through dark times in their lives and careers, and have come out the other side. And resilience is a really important thing to develop, actually, as an individual, but also as somebody in the working world. It's such a critical skill and such an important muscle to practice. But yes. And I think for girls I think it's a really important time for girls to be hearing that.
You couldn't agree with you more. And it's so interesting, though, isn't it? It's that trade-off between the aspiration may be there, but actually just something as practical as you've just highlighted, in a country where if you can't even get to school, how can you even get to the point of being inspired, taking those practical steps to to fulfill something? And it's the challenge is enormous, and I think the fear is that we have gone backwards, and we have to I think work proactively and together to to take that forward. Now, inspiring girls is all about inspiring the next generation. So you've talked a little bit about your journey and what inspired you to get involved, but if you were talking to your younger self, what advice would you give to yourself?
Well, actually, this is a reasonably easy. I mentioned I've got an 8-year-old daughter, so I almost do have a younger self. Younger self. She's ginger too, so it's very easy to see myself in her. I would say, and I do say, just explore and be curious, be open to opportunities. That's and I think that's something I would say. It was Careers Week in the UK last week, and I did a couple of school talks, obviously via Teams, and I couldn't see anybody, which was very strange. But it's the first time I've done that to a school group. But and I think that's really something I repeated then, is that really life experience is one of the best ways of finding out what you're passionate about, and I think connected to that, what you're good at. Yes. It's quite difficult to see outside the subject specific boxes when you're at school. You're good at maths, but you're not good at English, or so you think. You get very boxed into these things you're good at. But actually, and
not only that, you a lot of people, I think, allow themselves to be channeled into that thought process as well. Yeah. So very early on, I'm not good at maths. Why are you not good at maths? And it's and I think that is, again, something that is incredibly dangerous and at risk of stereotypes as well.
Absolutely. You see that. You still see that with sort of maths and young women now. Absolutely. And I think I would always just say, of course, when you go into the workplace and you go into the real world, so to speak, that none of that falls away, and what is replaced by that is things like leadership skills and resilience and teamwork, or whether or not perhaps you're better at working on your own. You sort of learn that about yourself, and I think the more life experience you can have at whatever age, the more you get to know yourself, and the more you get to know perhaps the where you're happiest, or where you're most comfortable. and other areas that perhaps you might like to work on. So that's what I would say. I would say be open to as many opportunities as you can, and be curious.
Very, very important advice. Thanks for that. And one of the things we talked about a little earlier on was about STEM, science subjects and things. And I think if there is a positive that we need to grab onto from the pandemic, is this renewed interest in science and STEM subjects. And, the fact that we have been leaders in medicine and with the vaccine and so forth and stuff. And also a number of young people applying for those subjects at university. And is that something that you're picking up on at Inspiring Girls as well?
Yeah, absolutely. An uptick. And I think there has been I'm sensing sort of internationally, there's a renewed focus on that by international sort of organisations. And you can definitely see the drip effect down to schools and colleges about the interest, making sure that we've got young women interested in science. And we're actually today launching it launched on Friday, but for International Women's Day, Inspiring Girls are running a campaign at the moment called #Nobel for Mileva, which is a campaign about Mileva Maric Einstein, which was Albert Einstein's first wife. Okay. Now, there's absolutely no reason. I didn't know very much about her prior to reading about her. But it's quite an amazing story. She was Einstein's first wife. She was a fabulous physicist and mathematician in her own right. Some say that the document showed she was better than Einstein, and certainly played a very instrumental role in his early theories, which made him so famous. But has now effectively been erased from history. Whereas the name of Einstein is known throughout the world. And we were approached with the story, and we were approached with some of the by an advertising agency who's based in Brazil actually, and we just thought it was such a fantastic opportunity for us, and really spoke to our values about shining a light on the achievements of women and girls in science, and really showcasing the fact that actually a lot of these women do and have existed. It's just that they have been effectively written out of history. Yeah. And to a certain degree continue to be, we don't have women scientists that are necessarily household names, although that is obviously changing. So if you do want to have a look at the campaign, it's #Nobel for Mileva, or you can find out more about it on our Inspiring Girls page. We're running it all through March, and you'll see there's lots of the famous picture of Einstein with his tongue out. We've got women from across the globe, from all our country teams that are sort of replicating that picture, which is quite a sight. It's worth a look.
Brilliant. And it's fascinating what you say, though, isn't it? So, not just say they've been forgotten or overlooked, but actually, eradicated, removed. It's terrible, isn't it? Yeah. And an injustice that I'm not sure would happen now, No. And so, look, we've taken up a lot of your time. Thank you to everybody that's joined us. We'll be sharing this on our IGTV channel and across all our other channels as well. And I hope you'll do that on Inspiring Girls. But the thing we want is to know what we can do for you. Now, I'm sure everyone that's watching this will be wondering, what can I do? What's my one bit? This sounds amazing, but actually I can't make a difference. But in fact, you can. Tell everyone that's watching, and we will cascade this further, how they can do their bit to get involved, what they can do to help. What's the one thing that you can do today that can make a difference?
Sure. Well, thanks for the opportunity for this, Sarah, because there is you don't necessarily need to be giving lots of time to sort of go into schools and do lots of school talks if you don't wish to. We have in the end of 2019, we launched an online video hub, which of course over the last year has been incredibly valuable. We couldn't have ever imagined. And that it basically allows any woman anywhere to participate in our campaign by going onto the video hub. You can find the link from our website, and recording their own video. And that can be just simply from your phone, from your computer. This doesn't need to be a professional job at all. 2 or 3 minutes. We give some guidance on the hub, so some example questions. So really it's just about carving out, if you take 15 minutes out of your day, you can get it done. And what happens is then you upload it to us. We'll deal with all the editing work, and then it will be uploaded onto the hub for girls anywhere in the world, to be able to access your story. And believe me, it is hugely impactful. So if anybody out there would like to record a video, then we would be very grateful. And of course, just follow our pages, and of course, like any charity, as you mentioned earlier, Sarah, donations. If there's anybody out there who would like to donate and help us in that way, then we would of course be incredibly grateful for that too.
Thank you. So there you are, 2 to 3 minutes of your time, and I hope, again, I mean, I think we've so for many people that technology has been daunting up until now, and we've all had to embrace it. So hopefully 2 to 3 minutes of videoing yourself, sharing your own journey, and inspiring the next generation is something that you can build into your day. Have a quick cup of coffee, take out 15 minutes, of which 2 minutes of video, and you could be doing your bit. It's not that difficult. Thank you so much for joining us. I mean, I have just scribbled loads and loads of notes. As ever, so inspiring to hear from you, and and everyone else in your team, and obviously to your amazing founder, Miriam Gonzalez. But I guess just 2 or 3 things have struck me, that role models, they are everything. They're a really powerful and important way of counteracting stereotypes. We want to make sure that every girl in the world has access to amazing women, not just in our developed world, but as you talked about, in Africa and beyond as well. Incredibly important if we're going to achieve some sense of quality and equality and balance. And then I think this is key for anyone, but especially important for our next generation, is explore as much as possible and be curious. Life experience is the best way to find out what you're passionate about and what you're good at. Be true to yourself, find out who you are, and then you'll know when you found it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time, and thank you everyone for joining, and enjoy the rest of International Women's Day. Thanks, Vicky.
Thanks, Sarah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.